Well, afternoon, and here is the update on the rather spiffing Honda RC166. You'll note I'm not in picture. I'm not trying to be. I'm experimenting with the new camera actually, but anyway, I don't want to be in the picture. Most people that put videos of themselves on YouTube, when it's about a subject, you often find it that they just become obsessed with being in front of the camera. It's so boring. So I'm trying to keep out of the picture as best I can and show you the things that are interesting, like our little chain here and sprockets, but of course we're not using that because that's the standard plastic one, which I'll come to this in more detail in a moment. Just get that out of the way. We are now moving on to the brakes, and of course we've been through some pain recently. We've been through some pain with our wheels of fortune, which, as you can probably tell, are very intricate pieces, almost like, literally like building a watch. In fact, perhaps even more difficult, frankly, because the pieces were so fine, especially the spoke nipples. So difficult, so small, not even 1 millimetre across, and you might just be able to see there. I don't know if you can with the video, but here is the tyre valve. Incredible. That's about 1 millimetre, and the spoke nipples are less than that. They're just tiny. Such a challenge, and so many different things you're trying to do. It's almost like juggling. You've got to try and get the spokes in position, get the hub in position, make sure the wheel's the right way around and that the spokes are going into the rim in the right direction. Really difficult stuff. I've never had anything more challenging ever. Anyway, we move on. So that was a couple of weeks work. I've done 2 of these obviously, but this is actually the rear one, which is the more attractive looking one, I'd say. Just about to move on to the brake drums. So this is the brake drum out of here. It's drum brakes in 1966. The discs hadn't really come in then, so that must have been a bit exciting on the Isle of Man TT course. 1 or 2 corners I can think of. Anyway, we digress. We're now moving on to the rear swinging arm, onto which this wheel will be mounted very soon, and that's all looking rather kicking, I'm sure you'll agree. And we have all the other major components here. So we have the rear sprocket's going to carry the chain, we've got the protective chain guide, and then we have a choice of 2 sprockets, and it really does depend on how the fit is with your chain, which I'll come to in a minute. So a bit of options there, and then we've got these amazingly little, I don't know if I can pick this up, this grill, vented grill. This is for the heat dissipation out of the brake drum, and you can probably tell, hopefully on the camera, that it is vented. It's got these little tiny vents in it. I'm in trouble with this. As you can see, these parts are incredibly hard to handle. They're incredibly tiny. We've got here the lower rear link on the rear suspension, which is like a toe link. Got parts here of the brakes. This is the brake drum cantilever operating levers which operate the drum. So that really wants to go in here with that. And various other little components. Anyway, I digress. We're getting off the topic. What I really wanted to show you is the chain. This chain took just under 9 hours to build last Sunday. The whole of last Sunday I spent on it, and here it is. And I've actually had fun today. It's so flexible and true to life. It's a real chain. Comprises of about, I don't know, 240 pieces or something like that. Because there's 3. There's like 3 links. It has 2 on one side, 1 on the other, a roller and a collet, a pin in the middle, just like the real thing. So, but it's amazingly. I've actually been having fun making it into the shapes of various Formula 1 tracks. Let me give you an example. I nearly did Brands Hatch, didn't I then, really? Brands Hatch? Something like, kind of like that, isn't it, really? Almost. Not doing it very well, am I? More like There you go, Brands Hatch, you see? Brands Hatch, almost. I've been having a lot of fun with this today doing this. That's, yeah, I like that. Square it off a bit. Anyway, I'm digressing. But this is a remarkable piece because it has to be lubricated like a real chain, so it has been. And it will means that the wheels will run true like the real thing in a completely scaled way. But this, as I say, if you think that these took about 7 hours each to build, and this took just nearly 9 hours. So that gives you an idea what's involved in building this thing. When I say build, I don't include the painting time or what have you, but so basically you've got 3 days work just in 3 components, 3 full working days. Astonishing really. But the real time with this model, like any of course, is in the painting, which you don't really see. I might do a little tutorial on painting before the end of the model, because I haven't actually shown any painting being done, but it's done with an airbrush. It's all about the right mix, the right thickness, viscosity. I mean, I painted this really just for my own amusement, in the correct colours of course. It's aluminium for the sprockets, and I haven't actually painted, this is the plastic colour, but it happens to be the right shade actually for the chain, which is metallic grey. It's what they call it, Tamiya refer to it as XF56, and it's pretty much that anyway. So I just did it for amusement, for Mr. Parsons can have this back, because it doesn't get used of course, because we have this sprocket system and chain here instead. So, and there's no comparison, you know. This looks good, and if I painted it and highlighted it in the right way, it would look quite acceptable and quite nice. But having a real chain, you know, there's just no comparison with a bit of plastic. Looks great. Anyway, that's where we're at. Going to build the brakes next, but I shan't video that because it's just going to be too boring. It doesn't make good TV, I can assure you. I never understand people that video themselves making models because it's just too long-winded model making. It just takes forever. So we're now up to, have a recap, we're up to final assembly. The rear brake hub, which is a very small job now because I've done all the hard work of painting, etc. and pre-preparing things. We then put the hub on and basically fit this wheel. As you can see here, it's going to have the sprocket over it. Sprocket goes something like, get it right. I don't think I'm getting it right, am I? Okay, it goes that way, like that, and then the chain goes around it. And then it gets fixed in through the rear trailing arm, and we're off really, and that's then it gets fixed in. But before, it shows here this rear shockers, which I haven't built yet because I've had to do things in a back and forth system to actually make it work. Otherwise, because you've got 2 sets of instructions which sort of contradict each other, because this is almost like a separate kit, the chain set. And boy, you see the fun I had here. Oh my god, it's last Sunday, I don't even want to think about that anymore. It's done. Yeah, so I haven't built these yet. They're ready to go. You can see, I'll show you here, we have them. Almost ready. Just put these back in there, little places I've got for them. Chain. Beautiful, beautiful that chain. That's a work of art in its own right. But we've got the shockers, the tops and the bottoms here. Just going to get springs on it and they're ready to go. So very soon this will be underway again. So today it's been all about painting, preparing and getting all these ancillary components, bending. It's quite difficult actually to bend these fellas. It says, oh, bend them with your Tamiya photo etch bending tweezers, which we have here, the actual thing they recommend, the very product. In fact, we had to buy a number of these. Had to buy some of these, much thicker tweezers, Tamiya genuine product, and these. Anyway, so this bending business, very very difficult because when you actually get the tweezers, they don't meet. They need to meet together early, and now you can put force on them, but they're a bit thin. Look how thin they are. It's only about 1 millimetre a bit, so you can't get the force on to do this bending in the way that they suggest. I've done it, but it was tricky. It wasn't, you know. They say, oh, just bend this. And it takes you 40 minutes to do that. And this is where the time goes, of course. Anyway, we're coming along with it rather nicely, and we will have another update shortly. Okay, and with that, I'll put this back into the frame so you can see I've not been sitting around watching Formula 1. Well, I have actually. I've been doing it as I've been working on my iPad. But these components are going to come together in this beautiful rear assembly, and I think once that's together, then wow, it really is going to look like a motorbike, and it'll be well on the way. Well on the way. Once we get the front and rear wheels on, then it's going to look like a proper machine. And I've tried to keep the instructions as best I can all nice and perfect, so it's a bit of a souvenir, you know. And there's no paint, there's no glue. Did get a little splash somewhere on the front there? I don't know, I think it was just stuff I caught it with the brush. Normally you see people's instructions and they're just virtually unreadable at the end, so I've tried to make sure that these look nice and new and retain their freshness. So this is where we're at in this page. This is where we are now. Rear hub, rear trailing arm, swing arm, rear suspension. That's what we're doing next. And then some of these sub-assemblies, like the exhaust, they're completely done already. All I've got to do is put on the little collets, the fixing bolts, and then so that'll be a very quick process. And again, we've got the oops, bits of excess plastic there. We have got the instructions here saying I've got to go and build the forks and the handlebars. We've done that as well. All we have to do is this assembly for the instruments. So that's done, wheels are done. Quite a lot of this assembly is done apart from the brakes. It's the brakes and the rear suspension, putting the swing arm in, and then we're really into the latter stages of the build, which is the bodywork, which is something where we have to be very, very careful because it's very visible and it's a very high finish, very obvious if there's any mistakes. So we have to do that very, very carefully. But basically, the mechanics of this kit now, we have it. We have it. It's all the difficult parts, the really hideous parts. This one in particular, I really struggle with this. I struggled. So much work, so difficult. It's like it's a piece of jewellery, really. I mean, it's not even like model making. I've never experienced that before. That and that, I don't think it gets any tougher. All the more satisfying when it's done now. Anyway, there we go. That's the update.